Okay, good morning, Shalom Aleichem, everybody. This Shabbos, we have the special privilege to be reading together Parshas Truma. Parshas Truma is the building of the Mishkan. The truth is, you'll notice that it's confusing. I had to stop for a second. Mishkan, Mikdash. Mishkan, Mikdash. It is the Mishkan, and it is confusing because the Torah uses both languages, back and forth. And I saw some of the version like address this, Mishkan or Mikdash. But Vasuli Mikdash L'Shachanti B'Socham, the building of a house for the Ribono Shel Olam. The Torah tells us, right, they had to have a tremendous amount of donations that needed to be brought for the Mishkan, and Moshe delineates the 11 things that they needed donations for. My daughter asked me last night, as we were learning the Parsha, she said, why didn't Hashem make a miracle that like they would just get all these things? Wouldn't that be easier? And I said, it definitely would be easier. Buy-in, right? You want people to be involved and feel like they're connected to this. Therefore, you want people to be involved, on whatever level. And they had the expert weavers and the expert sewers and the expert builders and the architects. Everybody had a chelek in this one edifice because Hashem said, I'm not going to have miracles involved in here. There were bits and pieces. Maybe we'll address them. But all in all, the donations came from the people. Daber al b'nei Yisrael v'chuli truma me'ez kol asher yedvenu libo tichu es trumasi. Hashem tells Moshe to tell b'nei Yisrael that we need a truma, we need a giving of their supplies to the Mishkan, and we know that they had not just enough, they had more than enough. V'zos ha-truma, and what are we going to give? Asher tichu me'itzam, and now we go through a list. Zahav, v'chesef, u'nechoshas. The first three things in the list are gold, silver, and copper. I saw the same idea in two different Sfarim this week. One in the Otzos HaTorah, to thank Corey Kleiman. He was a new neighbor, moved in about a year and a half ago. He just gave me the Sefer. He doesn't use it so much, so he used it, finished it. Otzos HaTorah on Parsha Shemos, Sefer Shemos, and also in the Torah Ladas, the same exact idea. And I thought it's very, very beautiful. People give for different reasons. Zahav, Kesef, and Nechoshes. So maybe this is the source, gold, silver, and copper donations, right? Are you going to give the higher level, right? But he says each one of them is an acronym. Listen to this. Zahav, Zeh Hanosein Bari. This is a person that gives when they're healthy. Nothing is going wrong in their life. They're giving for the sake of giving. I want to help. Halavai, proactively. We don't need to knock on their door. Okay, some people do. Good. That is Zahav. Kasef, Kisheroa Sakana Poteach. They're nervous about something, so they open up their hand, right? They open up their wallet and they give. The third level is nechoshes. Nesinas chole she'omer tnu. You give when somebody in your house is ill, right? These are all tzedakah. The mitzvah is check. I got the mitzvah tzedakah. But different levels of giving. Some people are giving completely on their own volition. Others, a little bit of internal pressure. I'm giving because I feel like it's going to help with potentially something that is, potentially wrong, right? And I want to give a donation. The third level is there is a tzara, an active tzara in the home. And as a result of that, I want to give. So says Rav Saratskin, or Zalman Saratskin, Holocaust survivor, emigrated to Eretz Yisrael and helped build up Torah there. He says the following. He says, what is so wrong with this? What do you mean?
In other words, when you're having sorrow sometimes, someone's sick, you would think you would want to give more, not the least amount.
Right. It's not the least amount. It's the reason. It's the reason for giving. All right. Nechoshes is a lower level. Okay. Yeah. Okay, but it's more about the reason for giving itself. That's the way I understood it. He says the issue with this is that if you go fast forward to Parshas Kitisa, what did people donate to the Egel? Only gold. Only gold, right? So I never noticed that before, right? But now if you contrast it, so here Moshe is saying, I need all these things, right? I don't only need gold, I need tchelas or gaman, I need other things, good. Saying is the deeper message is that they gave and Moshe didn't, no one needed to ask. Okay, everyone saw we needed it, and people just went ahead and opened up their bank accounts, opened up their safety deposit boxes, opened up and gave from all their zahav. Zeh hanosein bari, right? Without any asking, it was on their own. And that was the knock on the Jewish people at this moment, is that when it came to the Egel, everybody gave without asking, and here, not necessarily so. That is thought number one, Zahav, the Kesef, Unachoshes. Yeah.
Not a totally fair to Aaron, because Aaron's idea of Baruch Nidmei Azah was to part with the most hard to part thing. That's why he tried to delay.
So
that's why he would say give your Nechoshes, give your Zahav, so that most people will be resistant to give the Zahav.
Yeah. So good. On a pshat level, I agree with you, Gabe. That on a pshat level, he was asking for Zahav because that's the hardest to give away. And that's why Aaron did it. He didn't know that people would be so willing to give for the Egel itself. Great. Next thought comes from Rabbi Meir Zilberberg. Rabbi Meir Zilberberg is a great mashpia in Eretz Yisrael, Hasidic Rebbe. There I had the chus to meet him once, many, many years ago. And he quotes the following chazal. There's nothing greater in the Mishkan, nothing more beloved to Hashem in the Mishkan, except for filling up. Okay, we're back. I don't know what happened there. That never happened before. Okay, the Torah says the following. V'nesata es parochas tachas akrasim. The parochas is hung on hooks. The Ve'eves Hashem Ve'eves la parochas. Eis Aron Haidus. Beyond the parochas, he put in the Aron. Bernie mentioned. V'hivdilah parochas lachem. And the parochas shall separate bein hakodesh ubein kodesh hakodashim. It serves as a havdalah, a separation between two different parts of the mikdash. This is why every Aron Kodesh across the world has a parochas, has a curtain, right? Everything that we have in the shul correlates to something that we had in the Mishkan or the Beis HaMikdash. Right? Several years ago, we gave a series of shiurim and drushos on that notion. And the parochas is no different there. He quotes the Chafetz Chaim. The Chafetz Chaim writes, is that before Mashiach comes, there's going to be a world war. It's a lot to talk, Nechamas Gog uMagog. And many people interpret that as a physical war. The Chafetz Chaim writes, it's not going to be a physical war. It's going to be a spiritual war. That's good news and bad news. The bad news is that that's pretty scary. The good news is maybe it's happening right now. That spiritual war is going on right now. And he writes that that's the main point of what we need to learn about is Havdalah. What do we bring into our home, right? What do we filter out and leave outside of our home? He quotes the Naftali of Rupshitz. Rabbi Yuden's mother's family is of Rupshitz or Hasidim. And Kisivna, when you build a new home, the Torah says, Kisivna bayis chadash, va'asisa ma'akel l'gagecha. When you build a new home, what do you have to build around your roof? You have to build a ma'akel. You have to build a fence. We could understand this, al pi drush, that you need to build a fence. The first thing you need to build when you have the home is a boundary. What do you bring into your home and what do you keep outside of your home? When we were living in the shtetl, this was very easy to do, right? Today, we live in a world where it's much, much harder to figure out what belongs in and what belongs out of the home. And that is so significant. What's amazing is that he quotes a gematria. The gematria for the word ma'akeh is 216, he says. It's really 215, but if you count the kol out, which means the word ma'akeh itself, it's 216. There are 216 hours from Rosh Chodesh Av to the 9th of Av. Why that's correlating to the word gematria, the word ma'akeh? Why is that? Because that's what we are doing. We need to rebuild our parochas during the month of Av, right? As we're entering the world of the building of the Mishkan, which takes place over the next several weeks, we need to think about what we're keeping in and what we are leaving out. And that builds up the Kedusha in our home, right? The parochas separated between the Holy of Holies, right? Only things that are the utmost holiest and utmost significance and importance do we leave separate from everything else. And we need to take that very, very seriously, right? Today, it's a machala because it's so complicated and so hard. And every time you think like you figured it out, in many ways, you didn't necessarily figure it out. It's so, so important. Okay, next idea is a big chiddush, I would say, from the Sforno, and I may be saying something slightly controversial. So the Sforno writes the following: Vasuli mikdash v'shachanti b'socham. I'm going to make me a sanctuary, and I will dwell amongst you. I will dwell amongst you. Sforno writes, come on, God isn't everywhere? No, isn't God, don't we learn Uncle Maishi, right? He's everywhere. Why do we need a house for him? Why can't we dive in and call out to God wherever we are? So the Sforno writes the following: there's a machlokas as to when this parsha took place. When did Hashem tell us build a Mishkan? So the Ramban writes, I don't know, right now, after Parsha Mishpatim, after Matan Torah, the next thing he said was build a Mishkan. Rashi, what does Rashi say? After Chet Egel, right? We already alluded to this idea. Rashi writes, no. We only needed this notion, this idea, to have a building for God after Chet Egel. And says a Sforno, the pasuk says v'chein tasu. Vasuli mikdash v'shachanti b'socham. Make for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell amongst you. Kechol asher ani mar'eh oscha. Everything that I show you, eis tavnis hamishkan. Chazal say that Moshe was seen the entire architectural plans, and that's how we know what to do. Eis tavnis kol kelav, and all the structures of all the utensils in the Mishkan. V'chein ta'asu, and this shall you do. What's this shall you do? Atem kidesh eshkon b'sochachem. Says the Sforno, Moshe is talking to us today in Tafshin Pei Gimel, in 2022, 2023. Today, if you want to know where to talk to God, that he should accept all of your tefillos. Before Chet Egel, you were able to serve God in your spot. And every spot was ideal, right? Every spot. But that's not true. Post Chet Egel, Hashem's presence is more powerful, more impactful in Mekomos of Torah and of Tefillah. That's what the Sforno says. Yes.
What do you mean by serving God? Sacrifices, wasn't that only the firstborn sons that were able to do that?
So if we're referring to, that's not what I'm referring to. He's referring to like David, talking to God, right? The main place to do that was in the Mishkan. Says Ramosha Sternbach. Ramosha Sternbach is a great leader today. He's one of the Gedolei Hador. He lives in Eretz Yisrael, and he writes, you see from this idea that Tzarech L'Daktek L'Ispala B'Bate Knesios B'Bate Midrashos. One should be very careful to try to make sure to daven in shuls and Bate Medrash. Sheyiskablu Tfilosenu B'Ratzon Shesham Hu Makom Hashrina B'Yameinu. The place where the Shekhinah is found today is in our shul, and it's not in the living room, right? That's where Hashem is found.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is especially the Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams.
Build it, they come. Our expression is build it, and they must come.
Ooh, if you build it, they will come. He will come. Sorry, the daik in the language. If you build it, he will come. That is the language of the movie.
And you must come because you have to come to shul.
If you build it, they must come. Okay, good. Yeah.
So I have a question. For many reasons, younger children or whatever,
Yeah.
or people, let's exclude men who aren't well or can't
Yeah.
get to shul. Let's focus on the women.
Yeah.
Isn't it important for our tefillah to count and for us to feel that we really communicate with Hashem? And
Yeah.
a lot of times, women, especially if they have young children,
It's hard for them to come.
or how about, when you bench lift for Shabbos and Yom Tov,
Yeah.
you have your extra,
Yeah.
davening and stuff like that. It's not shul. Does that mean that we can't get this closeness to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, where he's not going to listen?
Yeah. No. So Hashem listens. The closest is there. It's more impactful in shul. One of the biggest, I think. What's the right word? One of the biggest impacts, I think, on COVID to all shuls is that fewer women are coming to shul. Everyone has an excuse. This is not me saying to individuals. I was speaking to old friends of ours, and they said in their shul, 2 women are coming to shul now. It used to be packed, and now only 2 women are appearing in the women's section every single Shabbos. Maybe at the end of that,
The same
what? I don't know. I'm not real. This is not to like knock any particular person, chas v'shalom, but it's ein odoma. The level of coming to shul when it comes to
Rabbi,
in the basic Knesset is not the same as davening in somebody's living room. It's not the same. Again, there are many, many reasons why people can't, and Hashem knows, not right, and for a variety of reasons. I'll tell you a great story. 1 second, Jules. When after we had Abigail, Sarah was a big davener, always in shul. It was very hard for her to like not have that, and she felt like she was also like not practically davening as much as she used to. And Erev Yom Kippur, we had a bris, and we went from the bris, I remember, straight to Brooklyn to spend Yom Kippur by my in-laws. And a friend of ours, it was their bris, called us up and said, could you drive Rav Shechter to the bris? Great. I said, Sarah, you're going to speak to Rav Shechter about your issue. Like, speak to him about it. Like, what do you do? Like, you really are very busy. And she was starting graduate school and there's a lot going on. And he said to her, something I'll never forget. He's like, she said the whole story, and he said, a mother is always davening. A mother is always davening. Right?
It's true.
Siddur, no, mother's always davening, right? Jewel, sorry, you had a question? Okay, you let me know. The Rav Sternbach, in his Chuvos, someone shared this Chuva with me last week. That's why it's on my mind. Rav Sternbach has a Chuva where he talks about the notion of davening in a shul or a base medrash. The truth is, davening in a place where you learn Torah is the highest level. Davening in a place where you learn Torah, that's the highest level. And he quotes a Chazal. Chazal says that in the future, all the Batei Knesios, all the Batei Midrashos are going to be taken and go to Eretz Yisrael. So last week, I had mentioned I was in 770 last week, Chabad, and we went to the Living Torah Museum, which is right next door to 770. And at the end of it's a kids museum. At the end of one of the floors, the last exhibit is a lot of different mitzvos. It's a very dark room, and there are buttons like kissing the mezuzah, putting on tefillin, obviously, and different things. And you have to press a button because like you did the mitzvah. And the guide said, press all the buttons really, really fast. And slowly, by pressing the buttons, the room lights up to show that every mitzvah that you do, and that's really, that's a Chabad idea, but it's really a Torah idea, that every mitzvah that you do brings more light into the world. And so the whole world and the whole room gets lit up. And on these panels, which were blank before, are images of Eretz Yisrael, of like the Kotel, the Beis HaMikdash, and then you have like the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower. There is a Chazal, because like, what is going on here? What's the Eiffel Tower doing in Yerushalayim? So there's a medrash that says that the whole world is going to become like Eretz Yisrael. So Chazal also say that all the shuls, so where's the space going to be? So he says it's not really all the shuls. That's not really what it means. It means the kedusha that is within the walls of the shul is going to be taken and brought to Eretz Yisrael to sanctify the land of Israel and to make it holy. Because within the walls of each of our shuls, there is a tremendous amount of kedusha. Therefore, he says, in chutz la'aretz, ha-kedusha nish'eres la'olamim, v'hasida le'akar l'Eretz Yisrael. In chutz la'aretz, where do we have the level of kedusha of Eretz Yisrael? It's in the shuls. It's in the shuls itself. And that within itself is so important. His raya for it, one second, his proof for this is that a mitzorah, if someone becomes a mitzorah of their home, what do you have to do? If it's tsaras on the house, you have to knock down the walls of the house. So what do you mean tsaras in the house? He says you see there that people's words affect the walls of the house. So if it's true for Tumah, it's true for Kedusha as well. Yes, Jules.
No, I wanted to say I was driving home. I'm in Florida right now. I was just driving back from BRS. Anyway, in our shul in Teaneck, the women are still there, almost the same number of people.
Great, amazing.
Interesting, yeah.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Okay, amazing. Okay, next idea. We already discussed. Paroches was number one. Secondly, Zahav v'kesef v'nechoshas. Third idea was davening. What changed after Chet Egel? Why is it so important to daven in a Beis HaKnesses? The very first of the kalim that we use that is mentioned in the building of the Mishkan is which one? You know? It was mentioned already. The Aron. Right? The Aron was the first one of all the kalim. Vasu Aron asay shitim, amatzayim v'chetzi orko, v'ama v'chetzi rachbo, v'ama v'chetzi komaso. So the Aron, you should build an Aron out of acacia wood. It shall be amasayim v'chetzi orko. The length of it should be 2.5. The width of it should be 1.5 amos, and the length of it should be also 1.5 amos. It is the only one of the kalim in the Mishkan in which each of the measurements of each side are halves. Why is that? Now, why is that? The Aron is the only kli where each measurement is by halves. God couldn't say make it 3 by 2. He had to make it 2.5 by 1.5 by 1.5. What's going on here? What's going on here? What?
Same thing with the shekel, you need to be together. In other words, you can't do it by yourself.
Okay, so good. So one answer is that you can't learn all the Torah on your own, and you need to have other people to learn with you, and you need teachers and mentors and chavrusas to learn with you. Great. The Balaturim writes here, this is the idea we shared last year, that to be a Lomei Torah, you need to have anivos. You have to have humility. You have to be a half, not a whole. The Moshe Sternbach in his Sefer, again, we just 2 ideas from Sternbach today, writes in his Sefer, Tuv Tam V'das, that what does this teach you? That when it comes to Torah, you have to try to stretch ourselves, right? We have to stretch ourselves beyond our capacity. We should try not to rest on our laurels. I've always been this way. I don't need to push myself more in my Talmud Torah, in my doing mitzvos. I'm okay where I am. None of us, including myself, are okay where we are. To try to push ourselves. And it doesn't mean you get to the finish line, that you're gonna get to be a whole. Sometimes that means you're in like this half category for a while. We're like inconsistent. I'm doing it, I'm trying, I'm not. That's what Hashem wants from us. On our level, sarich lishtadel, to try. Yes, 1 second, Peter. La'amol b'Torah v'lo l'tzamsei b'kishron asav, and not to limit our skills. Ela yarchiv, try to stretch ourselves. V'ishtadel lagia l'midas yechot. Yeah.
Maybe to show that fine detail matters, exactness. Instead of saying 3 by 5.
Oh, very nice. I like that idea too. That's very good. I like that one. Okay, 4 ideas. The half is when it comes to Torah, it's precision. Right? That's what you mean? Like precision matters, right? Taking a lulav on Yud Daled Tishrei doesn't really count. It's close enough. It's close enough. No, it's not close enough. That doesn't matter, right? I gave them like 1 bracha of, first of all, Mishlach Manos. It doesn't need to be 2 brachas. Just 2 things. I gave them 1 thing. That's nice enough. I gave them a whole corned beef. No, it needs to be 2 manos, and that's fine. So exactitude, precision is required when it comes to the Torah. Yeah.
So this is might be different than learning Torah, but the whole idea more.
Yeah.
It's to show that the half does count, like making some effort. Is important.
You're adding to Rosh Hashanah that even the halves that we do that don't become a whole also matter.
Right, it's like
Great.
when people, there's a request for tzedakah or some organization who say, look, I can only give, $10 or a penny, or like, what difference does that make? Well, if 10 people give $10, you're already building up the money. And you shouldn't think that, the measurement of the Aron, which, is like the height of Kedusha and everything,
Yeah.
but every little piece counts, and that can reflect on us, B'nai Israel as a Jew. Like, it's nice to have Dolei Hador, but even the Amcha is important. That little half person who might not ever be able to become some great Rav, but his thoughts and his
People feel like half people, but they're not half people. Right? 100%. Great. Awesome. Yeah.
They have these do these precise measurements. I mean, they take it from Mitzrayim with it. It had to be so precise. I mean, you could estimate, but an estimate is not an exact.
So why are all the lengths that we have based on body parts? An amma is a forearm. A tefach is the width of your fingers. So maybe Moshe knew, okay, you're the average guy. You're the person. They had like a few different Yankels. And you stand by Yankel, we need you here. We need another Yankel here. And they stood there and he had his Amma, and that's maybe. They took other things from Egypt. Maybe they took instruments also, measuring tools. It could be. Could be. It's hard to know. It's really hard to know. Yeah. So if you continue on in the really, there's so many details here which are very difficult for many of us. If you have like an architectural mind, or you like construction or building things, like this is your parsha, and you can really appreciate this. It's hard for me personally. I have usually I have 2 Sfarim that have all the pictures of the Mishkan, and that helps me understand what is going on in the parsha. So if you just further go on in the story of the Aron and how we're building the Aron, the tzipiso zahav tahor, it needs to be gold plated on the outside and on the inside, but not in the middle. The Aron in the middle should be wood. Okay, so gold on the outside and the inside, but wood in the middle. Now, why is that? These last two questions that we just asked, right, are great questions to just discuss your Shabbos table. There happen to be like numerous answers to these questions, and every year I find it great to find like different approaches to these questions. So it's gold on the outside, gold on the inside, with wood in the middle. Says Chazal, you learn out from there, Tocho Kiboro, that a Talmud Chacham, a true, right, Talmud Chacham, needs to be somebody that their outsides and their insides are the same. What they say is what they mean. What they mean is what they do, right? They need to be consistent in everything that they do. Those are the real leaders. If that's so, then the whole thing should be gold. The whole thing should be gold. Why do we have the wood smack in the middle? What's that doing? Anivas. So, okay, so Honey is saying that this teaches you again the trait of humility. Moshe Rabbeinu was Adam Mikol Adam. He is the person that we see this most from. One of the most important traits in finding somebody to learn from is somebody that is an anav, somebody that has a trait of humility. It's not all about them. Good. Any other suggestions?
Yeah, develop your outside and develop your inside, but yeah, you're still all human.
We're still all human. We're still human, and that's represented by the wood. Somebody should take what they do seriously, but not take themselves seriously. Or just remember, what do you mean by that, Neil?
I think you can develop yourself as much as possible, but you still have to see your commonality with the rest of the.
Okay, you have to realize that you're a human being just like everybody else. Great. Yes.
Just thinking, that going back to Gan Eden with the holding of trees and wood amongst trees, to sort of always keep us grounded, reminding us where we came from and the whole beginning. It wasn't gold, it was the emphasis was on trees in Gan Eden. And to remind us that the Torah is really, it's a high, it's kind and that kind.
Rabbi,
Yeah. So there's something there. So
Rabbi,
remember where you came from. And that's reflected by the trees. Good.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
So I could see where somebody would say, though, gold on the outside, like the Torah is condoning, beauty is only skin deep kind of thing.
Ooh, beauty is only skin deep. Okay.
Yeah. Ouch.
Okay. So says the Chizkuni. Roy haya ha'aron lios kulo shel zahav. Chizkuni writes, It should really be all gold. It deserves to be all gold. It's a Torah. Ella sheyeh kaved linaso. If it was all gold, it would be too heavy to carry. V'dino linaseh bakasef. The halacha is that the Levium needed to carry it. Did they really carry it? No. It was carried miraculously nonetheless. But it would be too heavy. Therefore, they put, Hashem said, make it wood in the middle. Now, what is the message that the Chizkuni is teaching us about why we need wood in the middle? It could be the following, that people that learn Torah should not be a burden to others. And I don't mean, therefore, the community shouldn't support them. No, that's not what I mean. Is that sometimes with that comes a tremendous amount of intensity and becoming in a position to other people. They still need to be Me'urav im habrios. Should be somebody that connects to others, right? They are not burdening other people because of who they are and what they represent. Be somebody that is mindful and not too heavy on others, but maybe most importantly on themselves. There should be a lightness to Talmidei Chachamim. And you could think of different people and what they, right? A lightness to their Torah. Their Torah should never represent something that's overbearing or too much to handle. We should try to make the Torah that we have something that whoever we meet is like, oh, this is something that is attainable. This is something that is real. It's practical, something that I myself can relate to. Yeah.
Depth that we're talking about, and what's
The thickness?
the thickness of the wood
Not
versus
sure.
the gold?
I don't know.
Is it just plated like, and most of it is wood, or is it equal?
Even when some translate as gold plated, but I don't know what that means also. I don't know how thick it is. I don't know.
It just means that it's just
Yeah.
covered.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
then that would be the case, that most of it would be wood. Right.
Yeah,
It's
so
just plated like gold.
yeah, I'm not sure. Vitsipisa means to plate it, but I don't know. It seems to be that it was thicker than just a plate like we would use today. I'm not sure.
Since you're saying
Not
that
sure.
most of it is wood, then I think that
Yeah.
the
Comes into play a lot. Yeah. Okay, for today we learned what?
The cover was solid gold.
The kaporas was solid gold, correct. The cover was good. That idea maybe we'll mention on Shabbos. Why the cup is the kaporas, the cover for the aron, is that like a separate kli, or is that the same kli as the aron itself? That is a big discussion, because on top of the kaporas was the kruvim, and maybe that was like what did that represented Hashem's presence? This represents the Torah. Is that the same idea? Sounds like the same idea. Maybe it's a different idea, but textually it's probably different. Okay, so 5 ideas for today. One was Zahav, Kesef, and Nechoshes represents 3 levels of people that give. Second idea was the Ein Lecha Chaviv V'nei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ela Parochas. The parochas, the most beloved of all the items in the mikdash. Why is that? Separation, Havdalah, making boundaries today is a big thing. We live in a world where like even your work is in your home for most people, for many people today. Like how do you make separation, the boundaries on every level in our life? Davening in a shul, the significance of that. We're Moshe Sternbach and Tshuva. And then we discussed 2 ideas related to the aron. Why the arons dimensions only mentioned in halves. We had precision, anivas. We had the idea about trying to stretch yourself. And then why isn't the whole aron? Torah is gold. Why isn't the whole aron gold? Why is there wood in the middle? So we again mentioned the humanity of the person, humility again, and perhaps the Torah itself shouldn't be overbearing to the people, and the people that represent Torah shouldn't be overbearing or burdening to other individuals. Wish everybody a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you.